I've noticed that we have quite a display set before us, and before we really get to this, you want to kind of set this up and explain to us how Messianic Jews remember the resurrection, how they observe Passover, and how that all comes together?
Yes. What you see before you is a traditional Passover setting. And just to begin, if you read Matthew 26 and Luke 22, you see that Jesus sent the disciples to go and find a place to prepare for the Passover Seder. So we know that the Last Supper was a Passover Seder. And so it's very important that we understand that this is what Jesus did at that Last Supper. So everything I'm going to show you here, it's in the New Testament, as well as you can reference Exodus 12. And Leviticus 23 as well lists all the feasts of the Lord, including the Passover. So the Passover, if I may begin to get into it, every Seder begins with a lighting of the candles. If you have watched Fiddler on the Roof, you know, a woman usually lights a candle, but since there's no woman up here, I'm going to go ahead and do that and demonstrate how that. The lighting of fire is considered the last act of the week, which separates the work week from the Sabbath. And so these are often called Sabbath candles. And even if it's not Saturday, the candles are lit for festivals as well, and a woman will light these candles. She'll bring the glow and the beauty of Shabbat over to her face. She'll cover her eyes, and she will recite this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel yom tov. And in English, that says, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to light the festival lights." And so we have the beginning of the Seder begins with the lighting of the festival lights. The Seder then moves right into what is called the Kiddush. Kiddush comes from the Hebrew word kadosh, which means holy. And we all know holy simply means to separate, to set apart something for a specific purpose. And so we have the cup, the first cup of the Passover Seder. There are 4 cups, by the way. The first cup, we say the blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pori hagafen. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth the fruit of the vine. So I'll share this cup with you if you're all right with that.
Absolutely.
You can take a little sip. After the first cup is called the Kiddush cup, or the cup of sanctification, we move into a period where we wash our hands. Now, this is the part of the Seder where Jesus got down and washed the feet of the disciples. And in the biblical times, it was important to wash your feet because, you know, they didn't have nice Nikes to wear everywhere they went. They had dirty feet. So washing your hands and washing your feet are very important for biblical cleanliness. After the washing of the hands and the feet, there's a piece of parsley, which is called karpas in Hebrew. You can take one with me, and we're going to dip it in salt water. So, Pastor, go ahead and dip yours in salt water with me, and I'll say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hadama. Amen. And we can go ahead and eat that. And as we eat the parsley dipped in salt water, it reminds us of the tears of our forefathers that were in bondage. And if you're a believer in Jesus, you might remember what life was like before you were a believer. The pain, the suffering, the fear, the anxiety, the tears. So we remember what it was like to be in slavery. And spiritually, we can all identify with that. Amen? So as we go on, after we eat the vegetable, we break the middle matzah. And in this bag, this is called a matzah tosh. There are 3 pieces of unleavened bread, or matzah. 3 of them are packed in here. And it's a mystery, because why are there 3? We don't know. But what happens is we take out the middle one, and we break it in half. Half of it goes back into the matzah tosh, or the matzah bag. And the other half, interestingly, the mystery is that the other half is wrapped in a napkin like this. And then it's hidden away in the house, somewhere in the house. The father hides it from the children. And later in the Seder, the children have to go looking around the house to find what's called the afikomen. And I'll explain that in a second. But the Seder continues, and there's great mystery and symbolism in all of these things. After the kids answer or ask 4 questions, and the parents answer the questions, we begin to come to the next part of the Seder, which is the second cup. And in this is called the cup of judgment. The cup of judgment we have to diminish the cup because a full cup is a cup of joy, and we diminish it by dipping our pinky into it and reciting the 10 plagues of Egypt. So we begin with blood, frogs, vermin, wild beasts, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and slaying of the firstborn. And we splash it on our plate, and as you can see, what we have here is a symbolism of blood, the death of the firstborn, a symbol of the blood of the lambs, and also the Son of God, the firstborn of God, who gave his blood. So for as Messianic believers, we have a literal physical representation of the covenant right in front of our eyes.
Wow.
And then we can go ahead and bless the second cup because it's been diminished. We don't take joy over people suffering or over death. And so once again, we lift the second cup and we say the blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagahafen. And we take a drink. That's the second cup. Then we have the bread, the matzah, which is broken, and we share it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. And on the Seder plate, we just had the greens. We have the bitter herbs. Horseradish is bitter herbs, and here we have it mashed up with beet juice. And that, again, we are commanded to eat bitter herbs. And so we take the bitter herbs, put it a little bit on a piece of matzah for you, Pastor. Actually, I'll give you a large portion of that. And we say a blessing first. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu achlit maharor. Amen. And then we eat the bitter herbs. Your nose is on fire by now.
Yeah, that's why you got to say that blessing first.
Yes. And then we do something very interesting. This is a tradition from Rabbi Hillel during the first century. He would take some of this called haroset and mix it with the moror, the bitter herbs. Haroset is very sweet. And by dipping into the haroset and mixing it with the bitter herbs, we remember that life is often sweet and sometimes sour at the same time. This is the part of the Seder that Jesus said, the one who is about to betray me will dip into the sop with me, and the bitterness of what it's like to be betrayed by people you love. And that was what Jesus was trying to get through to the disciples, that there's often things in life are bitter. His death was very bitter. So, Pastor, I'll let you try that. But it's mixed with the sweetness. And for those of us who are believers, we have the sweetness of our salvation, and there's no blessing for this. You can go ahead and eat that. And life is bitter and sweet, but we have the sweetness of our salvation. After we eat the dinner, the third cup, it's called the cup of redemption. This is the cup, the third cup, that Jesus said, this is the cup of my blood, which is shed for you in the new covenant. Not the first cup, not the second cup, the third cup, which says after the supper, and he drinks the cup. And then the final part of the Seder is the fourth cup, which is called the cup of praise. And after drinking the fourth cup, it says Jesus went out into the garden with the disciples and they sang hymns. Also on the Seder plate, we have the lamb bone, which is a reminder of the lambs. We have an egg, which is a reminder of all the sacrifices that were burned on the altar in Jerusalem. And that is dipped in salt water, and we eat that as well. And at the end of the Seder, we say, Lashana habaha berushalayim. Next year, may we be in Jerusalem. And so everything we do here is pointed to Jesus. And when the afikomen is brought back, this is where Jesus said, take this, eat my body. It was broken, buried, and brought back for you. The children find the afikomen. This is all about him. He was broken, buried, and brought back.
Wow, isn't that amazing? The entire message of the resurrection, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, so clearly revealed to us in the Seder. Yep. Rabbi, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us, and I wish we had more time, but Thank you for clarifying and really helping us understand from a messianic standpoint just how precious and how relevant the Passover celebration is.